Let me introduce you to myself. We are waiting for people. So my name is Zaisha. I am a watercolor artist, a gouache artist, basically an artist who likes to experiment with different mediums, different fabrics, a lot of different things. And today I'm going to be teaching you how to paint a galaxy using watercolors. So there's a lot of ways you can do it. Today will be a very simple, easy thing. So even if you are a beginner, if you don't know, if you've never done watercolors before, this will be something which you can quickly do it. It's a very short and easy method for you to paint the watercolor galaxy. And you can use the techniques that I teach you for a lot of things. You can use it in making flowers, in making abstracts, butterflies, skies, this, that, anything and everything. So it's a basic technique which you can use for a lot of things. Awesome, let's start. So I'm going to teach you first what the paper I'm using, which papers I'm using. So these papers, this book is from Zen Sangam. It's about, it has 24 pages. Let me open it up so that you can see clearly. So as you can see, it has 24 papers, 24 sheets, and this is how it comes. It is stitched over here. So you can either paint on this directly or you can remove it, tear it, and then paint it. Okay, so this is the cover and this is how it looks. So you can place it like this and paint on top without having to, cut it. So that way it will not bend, the paper will stay strong. But I prefer to remove it, place it on a sheet or something to, move it, because sometimes I feel that the water or the colors can seep through and go to the next page. Okay, so let me just, this is how it looks. There are 24 sheets. Let us take one sheet. Okay, so before we start, let me tell you a quick basic thing about watercolors. So there are two types of papers. Okay, one is cold pressed, like these papers, and one is hot pressed. Okay, let me just give you an example. So one is cold pressed and one is hot pressed. So if you look at this, if you look at these papers, you can see a difference, right? This one has a texture and this one is a little smooth. So this is a hot pressed paper and this is a cold pressed paper. The only difference being cold pressed papers have these textures which help water retention nicely. So you can put like a lot of water and still the paper will not get soggy or it will not tear, it will hold on a lot. Whereas this one is like for a heavier medium. If you're using gouache, if you're using acrylic or anything which requires not a lot of water. So that time you can use these types of papers. You can also use watercolors in this, but sometimes if you're working, since a beginner is prone to using a lot of water, you might end up, bending the paper or it might seep through. So in this type, you get several GSMs. This is 300 GSM, which means gram per square meter. Okay, so the higher the GSM, the more water the paper can hold. So generally an A4 sheet, a normal A4 sheet is around 80 GSM. That is why it is very thin, very light, and if a lot of water comes onto it, it will tear. But this is not like that. This is 300 GSM, so it will hold a lot of water. Okay, so that is the very basic about watercolor papers. And then today what we are going to be using is watercolors, watercolor papers. You can have a bowl to keep your water in it. Any watercolor that you have, anything will do. I'm using these because these have like a lot of colors. Or if you even have the basic camlin, those colors also will do. You can, if you have a long brush like this, a flat brush, well and good. If not, no problem. You can always use the thin brushes that you have. A size 4 and a size 2 brush, and also a thin brush for details. If you don't have these, it's completely okay. I hope you can see here, size 4, 1 If you don't have these sizes, it's completely okay. So you don't have to worry about that. And gouache paints, white gouache. If you don't have this type, even the normal poster paints from Camlin, even that is completely okay. And then some tape, washi tape to tape your sides so that it doesn't keep moving around. And after that, some cotton swabs or tissue paper, whichever you have, it's completely okay. This one is optional. These are metallic colors or shimmery paints. If you don't have these, no problem. We can work without that also. Okay. I'm going to put this a little closer so you can see. I'll tape in. I suggest everybody watches this first one so that you're able to recreate it. In the second one, when I'm teaching you, you can paint along with me. But if you're confident that as you paint, you can listen to me as well, then you can go ahead and do that. No problem at all. If you want to just watch now and try it on later, or after when I'm explaining the doubts or something, when you want to try it out, that is also completely your choice. Okay, so I'm going to take some tape and tape it around. You can either just leave it like this or you can tape it around. Right now I'm taping this because I don't want it to move. I don't want it to move too much. You can get these tapes on Amazon. You can get it in any local store. Zia says that she has acrylic metallic color for shimmer. Is it okay? Yes, it's completely okay because we won't be using much of acrylics. Much of shimmer, so it's completely okay. How much water to add to gouache to make them work as watercolors? You will have to add a lot of water because basically gouache is a thick medium, and for that we need to have a lot of water. I will show you the consistency which you need to have so that you understand that this is the level of water which you will need to put for your gouache film. I hope that's okay, Rashi. And oils, you can also use it on hot press paper, on cold press, even in a normal A4 sheet you will be able to do it. You just need to learn how to get the control of water, and after that you'll be able to do it. This is 7 into 2 inches, that is 18 centimeter into 5 centimeter. But if you don't have this size, you can just do a normal 10 centimeter into a 5 centimeter or any size that you're comfortable with, any size. You don't have to use this size. Okay, so this is, I've taped my thing. Tape it nicely, and whenever you tape your projects, ensure that you are completely taping them smooth onto this. Otherwise, what will happen, it will end up seeping through, and we don't want to get those rough edges. Okay, I'm going to be taking this flat brush because I'm going to put like a lot of water here. So for that, I'm really using this. But if you don't have this, you can use a smaller flat brush or even this type. Okay, so before I start, let me tell you what I will be using so that you understand how the placement of colors will be. You have to choose any 3 colors for your Galaxy. It can be either from the same family, that is, let me show you in this. It can be either from the same family, that is like warm colors, or from cold colors. Okay, but in these 3 colors, you have to remember that one has to be a light color, one a little darker color, and one a darkest color. Okay, so 3 different colors. You can choose in yellows, in oranges, or even in greens, anything you want. I have these single colors which I have gotten from Neva palette. So I will be using this blue. I will show you how these colors look so that you understand how it is. These 3 colors is what I will be using. So let me place this here for you to see how these colors look. Okay, I'm taking a rough paper for you to understand. Take some water. So this color It's like this. I'm using a very light shade now for you to see. It's a teal color. You can use blue, you can use pink, baby pink, anything you want, any light color. So this is the light color that I'm choosing. This is a little darker color. A little darker color. So even this will be darker, but it depends on how much water you put, okay? These three. And then this is the darkest color. This is called Storm, or it's also called Ivory. Can you see three different shades of colors? You can also choose a lighter color. If you want, you can take a lighter color, that is lavender. I'm choosing lavender here. Okay. These are the three colors which I am planning to choose. You can use either pinks, greens, yellows, any color you want. If you're using metallic colors along with this, I will suggest you choose a color that goes along with these shades. So I think either this color, this one, or even this one. I feel they all go in the same family. Can you see? So one of these two colors we'll be putting here. And apart from that, you will require white color. Okay. Let's go back and keep this aside so you can see the color palette that I am going to be using. Okay. So let's start. Wet your flat brush. You need to work a little quickly in this because you don't want the water to dry up. Okay. So I'm taking the flat brush with a lot of water. Now, once you've done this, you need to understand that when we are painting galaxies, there's going to be a lot of spaces, a white space here, there, everywhere. That is what adds into the prettiness. So I'm taking a next size 4 brush. You start with your light color. Okay. Let me trace this here properly. Yeah. You start with your light color. So I'm taking this. And you just have to be random strokes, just random strokes. But make sure that you leave a lot of white gaps. I will tell you why we need these white gaps, because towards the end, when the paper dries with the water, it will form certain grooves which will help it look very natural. Okay, and if you notice, I'm putting it only towards the edges. I'm not putting it in the center because I want the center part to be more white so that it looks radiant. Okay, and then we take this next color. Along these lines, just add in as much as you want. Okay, now once you are done with these two colors, wash your brush nicely and without any paint, just water. Okay, I'll put you a little closer here. Just with water. Can you see? Okay. If you feel there's too much water or there's too much paint happening here, you can always take a tissue or a cotton swab and take out the excess water. Okay. You don't have to be uniform. It can be as random as possible. And now you have to take the darkest color. Okay. This darkest color, you will put it in the corners. Now, once you form the border of this, you have to remember that only after it dries, you should take it off. Till then, we will be dealing with the details. So I'm taking a smaller brush, taking the first shade again. See, the first time when we put a very light base, Second time, a little darker, which means more paint and less water. In this form of painting, you will be doing a lot of layers. So it's okay if you feel, like it's become messed up or it's become a lot of color, it's completely fine because we will be using techniques which will help it all merge together. Okay, so I've placed this aside because for now we're done working with this. Take the next color. Along those lines, the previous colors, along with the previous lines, you will have to add them. And you'll have to do this while the paper is wet. So you'll have to ensure that there is sufficient water. You don't have to worry if the paper will tear or if it will hold on. It's nothing like that. The level of water it has will help it form different patterns. Okay. So after this, just like we did in the beginning, we will take some water. We'll keep it here. Take some water, just the water, and then now if you see here, there's a lot of water here and there's a connection here which I don't want to keep. I want to make sure that it doesn't look very prominent. I want it to look abstract. So I will take my tissue or cotton swab and I'm going to press it in the center. Okay, can you see? It will form its own pattern. Another thing which I want to tell everybody is never keep your brushes like this. Never put it in water and let it go. Always wash your brush and keep it aside or somewhere to hold it like this. Because what will happen is, if you leave your brushes inside here all the time for a long time, this part, can you see the part which attaches the brush to this? This is called oh god, I forgot the name of it. I will think of it again and tell you. But the point being, the gum which uses these two to stay together will start wearing off, and then your bristles will start coming out. And that when that happens, your brushes will turn old and they will not be able to produce the results that you want. So in order to protect them and to keep them last longer, always wash your brushes and place them in your stand. If you don't have this, no problem at all. Anywhere else you can just place it so that it doesn't have too much water content in them. Okay, coming back to our painting. So as you can see, the paper is still wet, it is still damp, and we need to add in more layers for it to become popping. The next thing which we are going to do is we are going to take this lavender color, because I want to add a little bit, just a little bit of lavender here and there. And the main hero of our thing will be white paint. Okay, we will come to that. Little bit of lavender, just a few touches here. Okay, now once we come to this, we are going to take our white paint, white gouache. If you don't have white gouache, it's completely okay. You can even use poster colors, no problem. With your bigger brush, I normally use it straight from the tube because I don't require a lot, just a little bit. So after this is done, sufficient amount on the brush. What we're going to do is we are going to do the tapping effect. Okay, so I'm using the smaller brush here with the big brush. The closer you go and tap, the bigger splatters you're going to have, and the further away you go, the smaller splatters. Okay. After doing this, can you see how it has come here? We will wash our brush with a small brush, a thinner brush, size 0, size 1, or even if you have size 00 is completely okay. We'll take our white. Wherever it is still damp, we are going to add big dots of white paint. I'll bring it closer so that you can see. There has to be a lot of water so that they and form those abstract shapes. And now it's for the fun part, the time when you add in your glitter. So if you see, these have a little holographic effect. You can either use them, if you don't want, it's completely fine. You can use acrylic metallic paints, or you can just leave it like that, it's completely fine. But I like to add a little bit of metallic paint to my watercolors because I feel it adds a little pop to it. And I'm going to place you this camera like this so that you're able to see what I'm doing. I'm not sure if it's visible on camera, but it's got a very pretty shade, like it came a little bit on my hand. Can you see? Got a very pretty shade. The thing with metallic watercolors is they won't be seen when you are painting. After it dries, they start showing their colors. And it's better to put these shades on darker spaces so that once it dries, it will be seen through the layers. I'm taking the next shade. These are from Luminosa. It's called Egyptian, one of my favorite colors. Once it dries, you'll be able to see how it is shown. So we will wait for a little bit for it to dry. Till then, we are going to add some more details with our white paint. A thinnest brush. We will take the white. And wherever this white part is there, right, you're going to add smaller dots to make it look like it is separating. Okay. The main thing with galaxies is the white spaces, because these will be giving you those luminous, that starry effect. Okay, so you can add small ones, big ones, different styles. The other thing which you can do is, after you place these white dots, You can make a few of them once you dry up your brush. Completely dry, without any water in it, completely dry. Okay, you have to dry your brush completely without any water. Okay, because the water which we are going to be using is from whatever is on the paper. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw thin lines. You can even spread out the lines so that they look like they are shiny. Okay, we will be adding a lot of details to this, so you can see. Very thin lines, very thin lines. We are not using any paint, any water, nothing, just from whatever is on the paper. It doesn't have to be uniform lines. It can be different sizes, big lines, small ones, as thin as possible. You have to do this while the paint is still wet, otherwise it will be difficult for it to blend along. You don't have to do it for all the white dots, just a few is fine. But I like to have those lines because when it dries, it looks very pretty, and I think it will look really nice. Let me just put on a little bit of the ASMR video that I listened to, because I think they're going to start constructing again and there's going to be too much noise. I'm sorry in advance. Can you see the paint, the amount of water which I put, it is still damp. There is still so much water which will help it dry and form amazing patterns. Can you see? Now we will wait for this to dry so that we can add in a few more details. What brush am I using? This is silver palette brush, silver black velvet. This is around size 2. You can buy this on Amazon or even on any stationery shop will mostly have it. I bought this online. So I use this mainly for watercolors for thin strokes. It's very thin. Is the paper cold pressed or hot pressed? It is cold pressed. It is from Zen Sangam, and they have these bookmark cutouts which make it easier for us to paint bookmarks. It's available on their website. So it comes like this. They're all stitched together. You can paint on this directly, or you can also remove it and paint. If you paint on this directly, you should put a piece of tape here on this edge, because sometimes it can seep through the next paper. It can go into the next paper and we don't want it to damage the other paper. So while this dries, I'm going to show you one more technique that you can use to create your system. If you don't have the bookmark sheet, yeah, you can use a square one. That's completely okay. You can, even any paper that you have, you can cut it and you can make the shape you want, the size you want, and you can do it. So that's not a problem at all. For the next one, I'm going to show you how to paint on this thing directly and how it works. So since I'm going to be using a lot of water, I'm going to place something underneath so that I don't get another mark, and it's safe. This is one of the bigger sheet of paper which I have. I'm going to place it under this. It's a little too big. Otherwise, yeah, I think I'll just paint on this directly so that it doesn't. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use the same water. Even though it is blued out a bit, it's okay, it's completely fine. Take some water. Once you put good amount of water, I'll be using these two shades, the same dark blue and gray shade which we use. Along with this, I'm going to be using a yellow shade. This is Sunshine Pastel, one of my favorite yellows. It's got a beautiful thing. It's a little old, so that's why it's coming out of the pan, but it still works amazing. Okay. In this, what we're going to do is, here I want the water to be only on top more. I want it to be more on top. Below, if it is less, it's completely okay, but on top, I want it to be a little heavy because there's going to be a lot of work happening over here. With my brush, I'm going to take the blue. This is what I was telling. Can you see sometimes it might seep through, but I'm okay with it seeping through because I know that I have planned something else for the next sheet. And then I will take the darker color, place it over here, just on the top. Watercolor in general requires a lot of layering, so you'll have to have a lot of water. It's completely okay if it takes time because initially you will find it difficult, but as you practice, you will know how much water is required for each painting. Okay, I'm taking the lighter color now. Time to change the water because we've been using a lot of dark colors, right? Just give me a minute and I will be back. We add in the yellow here. I'm also going to be using a brighter shade of yellow. Now what we're going to do is wash our brush, take the smaller brush, and we're going to slowly blend in with lots of water. Always go light to dark and then dark to light, because what happens is if you come from dark to light, sometimes the darker color can overpower this. It will end up blending it too much in a way that you will not be able to find the light color. So it's always better to take it from light to dark. We will go back and take our blue with the light. Like I said earlier, we add light colors first and then we will be adding more layers to it. The thing with watercolors is you don't have to do a definite shape. It can be as abstract as possible, because in watercolors, the abstractness is what adds beauty to your paintings. Once this is done, I prefer not to keep the edges so fine, so I will be adding water and blending them in. Now once this is done, just like how we added a lot of paint, white paint to the white portion, we are going to be doing that. It's better to add white in the end, because this will help you see how much white space you want and how much dark space you want. And not just that, if you add your white in the beginning and then you do it, what will happen is your dark colors will overpower the white and it will form a very mucky type of a shade. So I'm taking my white paint. And then with a thinner brush, you can hold any brush. I'm going to be, the closer you are, the bigger dots that will come. The further away you go, the smaller thing will come. And also you have to ensure that, there is a lot of water in it and less paint, because water is what is going to help it go in that angle, okay? You can also add white paint directly. Each type of, the thing with white paint is every time it will be shown in a different way. That is, when you add dots, it will give you a different effect, and when you just directly apply, it will give you a different effect. Now with the thinnest brush, without any paint, any water, I'm going to add in. You can draw lines, or you can even just leave it. I like to draw lines because I feel it looks very, if you see stars, they have a shine, a luminous effect. So drawing these abstract lines will give you that. You can also draw a shooting star. You just have to draw a straight line. I'm going to take a cotton swab and dry this up. Once you're done with this, I'm going to add in a darker shade, that is the darkest color which we have, with a thin brush. Put it in the edges. You can either leave it like this, or you can add your shimmer. So I'm going back to the shimmer colors which we used previously. You can change the shimmer color if you want, but I think this will go good with this. Once your paint's dried, the shimmer will be seen. So once it's dried, I will show you how it looks. I'm going to take some more white and add it here, because I feel this one is having a little lesser white than this. It's completely okay if it gets blended up, because we'll be adding white after it dries up. We're going to let this dry for a few minutes. Now we will go back to the previous painting. Can you see the way the water makes the white paint form different patterns? This is what adds the textures to your Galaxy paint. Now that it is dry, can you see the shimmer that has come? Are you able to see? That's the thing with metallic paints, it will be seen once it dries. And can you see the shines which are coming? Okay, so once this is done, what we're going to do is we're going to take our white paint. We're going to take our white paint. With the thinnest brush. And we're going to add let's see. You could either do this with white paint or with the pen. I like to do it with the paint because it forms different sizes, and that is what makes it look even more real. And the part where we added these lines, we place it here in the center. A thin line. You can highlight some of the lines that you've already drawn. These will form as clusters or stars. Big, small, any size that you want. Thin line. If you're drawing a shooting star, all you have to do is put a small dot and a thin line. This will help you add. You can even put thin lines like this. We don't have to be regular. It can be as asymmetric as possible. The other thing which I like to do is, if you see that there are some places where the paint dark and light has a space, I like to add stars at that joining. One thing which you could also do is, I'm going to show it to you in this one. While the thing is still wet, right? While it is wet, you take your brush, thinnest brush, turn it aside. The back part of this, you can use this to form your stars. You will see different effects with this, because what will happen is, once it dries, it will look like a proper, like it's embellished in it, like it has been just made inside the paper, and those gives very pretty effects in the end. Once it's dried up, I will show you the difference between both of this. This is from White Night paint, and these are the shimmery paints. Now that this is dried and extant, what I'm thinking to do is I want to add a few pine trees, just a few ones. So I will take my thinnest brush, okay, and with the dark color, you can do leaves, just normal leaves. You can change the leaves like this, or you could make it blobs like this, or you could draw a building. You know, whatever you want, you could add over here. But I think pine trees will look nice in this. So let me quickly paint. I like to draw a thin line and just add in branches. Doesn't have to be symmetrical, it can just be fine lines. You see? And it can be thin, dark, light, however you like. I like to add the light color shades first and then go ahead and add darker trees. So if I make a tree big, then I will make the next one smaller. This is a different type of a pine tree. Or you could also, the other thing which I used to do is instead of drawing a line, I form it like this without the line, and then I just add in lines in between. Okay, you can add different types of trees. Okay, now that I'm done with the tree, we're going to take the white paint and add in our detail. Okay, you have to remember that white is something which will enhance and make anything pop. Any painting of yours will pop if you add in white. So I'm sorry about the lighting, it looks like it's going to rain. Can you see how the shimmer is coming up? Once it dries, all the shimmers will start showing up. So it adds a very beautiful effect in your painting. We'll take our white and then this one, it can be thick directly from the bottle. It doesn't have to be watery. It can be as thick as possible because in watercolors, you'll be layering them a lot, and thick paint will help you layer them and add volume to your painting. White is what will add more beauty to your galaxy. It can even, how do I tell you? It can even be in such a way that you can add white spots just in one place to show like the light is immersing from there. Once it's dried, you can also add in a lot of glitter, a lot of shimmer. Can you see how the shimmer is coming up? I've added only in a few places, but if you want, you can add in more. After it dries, you will be able to see the shade, but I think I won't be able to show you the proper shade because it's getting dark. Let's go back to our first painting. The next thing and last step which I like to do for these things, these galaxy paintings, is I take the darkest shade. Oh, we have a tiny person, tiny friend here. Okay. So take the dark shade, and in the corners, we're going to add this step is completely optional. You can just leave it like that. But I like the way it dries towards the end, the darker shades. Let me just turn on the light really quickly because it's getting darker. I hope this helps. Other thing which you can also do is take some dark paint and add it just near the white. This will add as shadows and it will give it volume. Just at one side. You can either do it from this side or this side. I like to do it towards the right because it feels like the light is coming from this side. Just a little bit of half shade. If you feel like you still want to add more stars, you can always do that. Take your white pen. Actually, it hasn't dried up yet, so That's the thing with white pen, you have to wait till it completely dries, otherwise it won't write on it. This one is complete. We will be removing the tape once this part dries. Till then, we will come to this. With our white paint, I'm going to add in some shooting stars. Can you see the patterns that it is forming as it dries? So this is the important things that you need to do while painting Galaxy. That's why the paper needs to be really wet. You can also add a moon if you want, or some planets, but just a burst of stars looks really pretty. I'm adding in more white here because I want it to be like the stars are going this way. This is completely optional. If you want to leave it just the way it is, it's okay. Sorry about the light. I didn't want to use the big light because the colors don't get captured when you use artificial light. Once this dries up, you can tear it. This is why I wasn't planning to use it just like that. But you can also leave it like this because I have something in mind that I'm going to do with this leak that it has. So we will come back to this. Now for my favorite part, it is removing the tape. Let us just check if it is dried up. This part is still a little wet. So satisfying, no? Do you guys also like tape paints? I find it very interesting. What kind of tripod am I using? I bought this thing from Amazon. I think it's available for 300 or 400 rupees. It is very useful, very, very useful. And the most important thing to have a straight and a proper thing is you have to wait for it to dry. If you don't wait for it to dry, the paint might seep in and we will have a mess. Like here, for example, it's still wet, but I will show you how to fix that. It is super easy. Okay, so generally, sometimes there is a tiny leak here and there. I just let it be because I think it adds into the beauty to the galaxy that we are painting. But I will show you how to hide these things. One is, you can either hide it with your pen, white pen. You can just add the white pen to this. But what happens is, most of the time the gel doesn't go on top and it looks very obvious. So that time you take your gouache paint, Can you see the shimmer? The more shimmer you add, the more you'll be able to see it as you paint. Thank you very much.